Assalamu alaikum, Bhai.
Walaikum salam.
So again, thank you so much for doing this. I know you are here for a very short amount of time, and this is on fairly short notice. But I really appreciate that you have agreed to do this and be a part of this podcast. A good starting point, as it has always been on this podcast, is that you can tell us your journey, how it has been up till now. I know it's been a fairly large amount of time since you have been a part of this industry. So just you can be as descriptive as you want to be. Just start off and just let us know how you came to be what you are now.
ठीक है जी. मैं इंशाल्लाह start करूँगा अपने from my life journey basically where it all started.
Sure.
So I was born and raised in Abu Dhabi in mid-70s. My father was a civil engineer in telecommunication based out of Abu Dhabi, Etisalat Telecommunication.
Alhamdulillah.
And then I'm the second of my 6 siblings. I did my earlier schooling all the way down in Abu Dhabi. Spent a few years at Pakistani Air Force School in Lahore, and then went back to Abu Dhabi, finished up my high school, and then came back to Pakistan for my undergrad degree. I did a BCom at Hela College of Commerce with University of Punjab. After that, I moved to United Kingdom. I finished my first master's and MBA in computer information systems from England, and then I did my second master's from Carlson School of Management and School of Science and Engineering and Technology at University of Minnesota. There's a collaboration program called Technological Leadership Institute. It's a crossover degree between business and technology leadership. I did that in 2011. Been in the industry for close to 25 years now. Had very cross industry, anywhere between from oil and gas to consumer goods to healthcare to financial services to consulting as well. I spent a few years at Deloitte Consulting, managing some of their technology, architecture, and strategy portfolios, as well as some really cool projects out there too. So a lot of good experience in there on the industry side as well as on the consulting side.
Amazing. So I think a very profound name in your portfolio is Deloitte,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like, how was it there?
Deloitte is I usually tell people that Deloitte is a university.
Okay.
You go in and you basically graduate based on how much time do you spend. A good starting point always is कि आप वहाँ पे अपने career के शुरू में जाएं और you just graduated or you just got over your undergrad. आप अपना career वहाँ पे शुरू करें, उसके बाद वहाँ पे आप कुछ साल गुजारें. You learn the tricks of the trade, you learn discipline, you learn how to do things, you learn frameworks, and you learn how to be a professional basically. All the way from communication, all the way from presentation, executive presence, and everything else. So the later you join Deloitte or these big consulting firms, there are 5 or 6 of them really, tier 1 and tier 2 firms. Your experiences vary and your outcome varies as well. So my focus was, I got there in my close to my mid-30s, and my focus really was to basically just learn the industry, learn the consulting industry. Learn how to hustle. That was the main thing, which is a core ingredient for an entrepreneur, as well as for next generation leaders. And then also be able to be a good communicator, as well as learn tricks of the trade plus frameworks that are very much effective in the industry today. Apart from that too, the exposure that you usually get with these consulting gigs, especially when you're working overseas. I don't have much experience in Asia or in Pakistan or Dubai and so too. But especially in overseas, when you're in UK, Europe, or you're in North America like US and Canada, the experience is very, very rich. You get to work on, some amazing projects. You get to deal with, top leadership. And then you basically get to deliver and you see the results of your labor right in front of you. Once your proposals are accepted, once your projects are accepted, once your delivery is accepted, you can see it in execution as well in a fairly short frame of time. The key takeaway from consulting roles always is that you will learn the vast amount of your learning will in a standard job will be probably 5 to 7 years that you can learn in about 6 to 10 months.
Okay.
So when I got out of Deloitte in about 3 years or something, I basically have already done about 7 to 9 different projects, different industries, different frameworks, different approaches, different leadership styles, different communication styles. And it was a very profound experience, to be very honest. So that's why, experiences like Deloitte's are very important and useful, especially when you get into if you get to experience it earlier in your career.
Earlier in your career, yeah. So I mean, definitely sounds like a special place. So Masood bhai, like if अगर मैं आपको बोलूँ कि like वहाँ के कुछ ऐसे lessons, it can be one as well or it can be more than one for us, कि this is something that that you feel कि अगर कोई Deloitte में होगा तो ये तो उसको most certainly सीखने को मिलेगा. There's something that's how that's going to कुछ life changing या that thing that have that kind of effect on your life. Is there something like that you learned there?
So a key takeaway, a key lesson learned is that your day of 24 hours can be stretched to be a 36-hour day or a 48 hours day. And when I say that, it simply means that you get to done a lot more than you get to done compared to an average person or average professional, because you learn to be resilient, you learn to prioritize, you learn how to basically be a quick thinker on your feet, and you basically learn how to basically manage your relationships in a fairly shorter period of time. But you put all of those together too, and you become a superhuman professional. Let's put it that way. And one core lesson that came out of this experience for me really was you learn how to hustle. Like you usually have a project that spans anywhere between 2 weeks all the way up to 8 weeks or 12 weeks or 16 weeks. Right? That's basically what most of the consulting strategy projects are. And you only have a day or two to ramp up.
Okay.
You go into a new industry, you go into a new firm, go into a new project, and you only have less than 48 hours to really ramp up, because that is the expectation. And the quicker you can ramp up and the quicker you can prioritize what your projects are, what your deliverables are, what the projected outcomes are, you will be a better consultant. And plus, you will be a better leader in future as well. A lot of organizations are basically run by former consultants.
Yes.
Big organizations. Yes. And they are doing, mixed bags. They're doing great. They're doing fine. They're doing awesome one way or the other too. But that's primarily because they can hustle the way they're expected to be in their day-to-day roles. And as you mature in your life or in your professional career too, learning how to hustle and actually hustling are two different things. But finding an alignment between both of those two disciplines is absolutely important for your success.
Makes sense. It definitely makes sense. So now, I mean, it is understandable that's why somebody who's coming out from Deloitte is given that kind of value technique. He's been dealt with that kind of pressure. He must be on his toes on any situation that they are dealt with. Yeah, definitely makes sense. So, like coming out of these big names, what is your vision in life now?
My vision in life is basically to create products that people love.
Okay.
It's just that simple. Is to bring about change, make that global impact where our products make a life-changing impact on people's life, whether it's changing their working habits, they're changing their working behaviors, or probably bringing in something that is profound for the world. This is a journey. It will always remain a journey. And during the rest of the journey of my life, or especially of my professional career, there will be stories that I'll be creating with this product development. There'll be wins, there will be losses. It's just part of the game. But I'm just looking forward to tell at least 2 to 4 more stories. 2 to 4 I retire.
2 to 4 more stories. Okay, 2 to 4 more stories.
At least.
Okay. Okay, this is amazing. This is amazing. And you mentioned a global impact. We had a similar conversation along those lines today.
Mm-hmm.
So can you just tell us something more about why a global impact is important?
I will tie this back to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us that I made you ashraful makhluqat.
Yeah.
And as ashraful makhluqat, the best of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you extraordinary creativity, has given you extraordinary discipline, has given you extraordinary wisdom. If you are able to put all of those together too and look at the world as your canvas, right, then just go crazy, sketch it out. And figure it out. How can you find your own place in this world? The global impact simply means that the value that you deliver through your products, are they localized? Is the impact very limited? Is the impact very small? Or the impact is huge or big? When you talk about scaling, for example, locally, nationally, globally, and whatnot too, the products that we want to create, we want to have a global impact with those products, which means that we should be able to scale those products to the rest of the world. Maybe some select markets, maybe all the markets too, in a phased approach and whatnot. But our focus should always be to create products that the world will love, which simply means that you drop yourself to a level of humanity where it becomes a very basic need of human beings or professionals, one way or the other too, and then develop, customize, personalize solutions that basically cater to them. That's how you will be able to make a global impact.
Amazing. And I think like in the pursuit of excellence and the pursuit of, getting there, this definitely seems like something that is bound to give meaning to your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to anyone's life for that matter, right?
Anyone's
Because
life, exactly.
I believe that every human being, and I believe a lot of big leaders, great leaders, basically have had the same thought process. Every human being should get up early in the morning and talk to themselves, look up in the mirror and say, what is my impact to the world? Because at the end of the day, you live in a community, you live in a society which is more localized, right? But the truth really is that you have the capability and you have the magic to create that impact that can be heard across hundreds and thousands of miles. You just have to figure out what that impact would be.
Makes sense. And when you say that you want to make products that people love, so like love in its own definition can be quite subjective to anyone's meaning. So what do you mean when you say that this is a product that people are going to love?
So, products that people are delighted to use, a
Okay.
product that actually solve their problems, product that actually address their pain points. And they get up in the morning and they say, oh my God, this specific product or this specific workflow or this specific tune or this specific adjustments into my workday has basically resulted in a gain of like 10% efficiency, for example, or 20% efficiency in a day. I think that is a product that everyone will love. If you can help people become more productive, save more time, and you be able to utilize that time or divide that time or divert that time into other activities, for example, their family life, their personal life, extracurricular activities, or maybe a side project or a side hustle, whatnot, right? If you're able to make that kind of an impact in people's life through our products and through our approaches, absolutely, hell yeah.
Okay, and then I think a follow-up here can be that, how does one look for such, ideas, or I think idea is not a better word, look for such problems basically.
So I think if you read Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Sundar Pichai, Elon Musk, Tesla Nicolas, Edison, they're all trying to solve some small, straightforward problems,
Yeah.
right? Look around you. We're sitting in Karachi, the city of Karachi, the great city of Karachi in Pakistan right now. Look around you and see what people are struggling with. Every single human being is struggling with. Most of the transportation on the road today is motorcycle, for example, right? What innovation can be brought in to make that motorcycle experience more convenient, or maybe make a motorcycle parking experience more convenient, or these snatching incidents, unfortunately, what can you do to basically technologically maybe track those snatching incidents, right? Maybe deploying cameras strategically into different areas, low cost cameras strategically deployed to a motorcycle that basically activates anytime you go beyond or below 10 miles or 10 kilometers an hour, things like those. So that's just one example, right? Pakistan is big on food scene, is big on clothing scene, is big on, the pharmacy scene, or medical healthcare scene, basically. Look for opportunities where you can make life easier for people. WhatsApp is basically a go-to communication tool set for all kind of work that happens in Pakistan. At least that's what my experience has been, a very limited one. See how you can leverage WhatsApp capabilities and possibly create, more services around that one single experience. Similarly, there are other things to do as well. What is it that you struggle with every single day? You get up in the morning, you take, you do your regular shower thing, you get your breakfast in, you basically, get into your car, get to work, get back home, and all that, right? Observe your day and see what is your problem. What is a common problem that you struggle with on a daily, regular basis? Take those struggles and look around if others are having the same struggle too. Others are having the same pain point too. And if they do, and you see a universal application or a universal pain point, create a universal application. And it can be a process optimization. It can be a brand new application. It can be basically some tweaks here and there, right? Whatnot. The solution doesn't always have to be a digital solution. The solution doesn't always have to be a technology solution. The solution can also be habit adjustment, for example, right? I mean, in Pakistan, I've not seen anywhere else in the world too. People are usually up during Fajr or after Fajr. Like when I get to work, most of the time I or my bosses are basically always one of the earlier people who are earliest to work, like 6:30 or 7 o'clock, and by 9 o'clock we have pretty much accomplished most of the things that we want to accomplish in a day, and the rest of the day is all about meetings and managing things and team discussions and whatnot too, right? See how value can be created around changing habits for people so that they can figure out how they can make a local impact and they can make a global impact. So it's a very it's a big topic to discuss.
Yeah.
But look around yourself. Common problems, common pain points usually equals a good application or a good solution, and that is when everyone should start.
So I think so. Taking away from your statements, looking around and keeping it simple can be, a good takeaway from this.
Yeah, the best design is the design that's super simple.
Yeah.
Just that simple. And you'll be surprised how difficult it is to design a simple solution. Because human mind by default is a multitasker and triages, right?
Definitely.
So when you start looking at a problem and you think about the solutions, you're always thinking about hundreds of possibilities. When you probably should start with thinking about just 5 or 6 possibilities and start narrowing those 5 or 6 possibilities down to 1 or 2. Then you will be able to basically, accelerate into what you want to develop or what you want to create. But getting yourself bogged down into thousands of thought processes, those multiple threads that run through your mind is, will just choke you.
You can totally relate, and it's super easy to overcomplicate things almost always.
And my experience has been based on the environments that you are in or you live in, and based on the complexities that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, impacts your way of thinking of how do you want to approach a solution. And, think a little deeper into that statement that I just made. When I travel back and forth between US and Pakistan, when I get down here in about a couple of days, I'm basically just scratching my head because life is just too complicated all of a sudden. Up there we are used to do a lot of things in a self-service manner, right? And doing things in a self-service manner is so convenient, right? And so straightforward. Up here you start touching things and then another thread opens up. That thread opens up 2 more threads. Those 2 threads open up 3 more threads. All of a sudden I'm stuck in a spider web, right? So when you try to, and I think when people live in that kind of an environment day to day, you are basically tuned, your mind is basically tuned to look at problems from a very complex or complexity point of view. I think that can hinder your ability to sometimes deliver good products or think simple solutions. But it can also be a strength sometimes if you can think through the noise and, stay focused and resilient. So there's no silver bullet here to get to a good answer here too, but, make your own pick, basically.
I agree. So Masaood bhai, like, leadership has been a core part of how you operate, right? So like, how did that came to be? Like, you can tell experiences, because I don't think that this is something you just read upon and learn it. This has to do something with life experiences and how you have come to a certain point. So what do you think about it?
So you have heard phrases like, born leader, leaders are born, leaders are this, leaders are that, right? I think that's all bullshit. Yes, people are born who are leadership candidates.
Yeah.
There are people who are leadership candidates. But every single human being needs nourishment. Every single human being needs that mentorship, that advisory, that support, that help that can help them become a better leader. And those people who basically can deal with their life experiences, challenges, complexities, and are able to constantly solve those problems, especially in collaboration with other people, um, especially by working through teams, for example. Uh, I think those are the people who will generally be successful or who generally are successful as leaders in the world, whether that's being a political leader or that's being an organizational leader or that's being a team leader or whatnot. My leadership experience primarily came from the sport of cricket. In my earlier days, I played, was an average player, but eventually playing consistently, got to a point, we had an opportunity to captain teams or manage teams. Eventually, I was able to manage leagues. I was able to do a lot more delivery than that too. 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I was member of International Cricket Council, ICC's Americas a vision for United States cricket, which was called USAC. So I was one of the 2 Pakistanis in that group of
Amazing.
30 people who basically advised on, strategy of how to develop an organization and do whatnot. Today that organization is basically the downhill, which is really a shame because the vision that was put together is not the vision that really has been executed. So, those are some of the areas where you basically, volunteer opportunities, but then also having a progressive career. I personally have a career where I check myself every 2 to 3 years. And, we can afford this opportunity to us because we live in an environment where there, jobs are available.
Yeah.
We can move around as we want to. It's mostly at will. And we can always find good opportunities one way or the other too. Whenever I feel like I'm getting into my comfort zone in a job, it's time for me to either switch my role in what I am in or switch my job and go into somewhere else. So that's how I was able to, and I was always more multidisciplinary, maybe a little street smart, you can call it too, but I was always multidisciplinary if you take a Western terminology. So I was basically able to easily pick up industry to industry, and industry to industries are different. When you're in consumer industry, it's a completely different industry.
Different.
Processes are different, approaches are different, but technology application is very similar.
Yeah.
When you're in financial industry, again, processes are different, but very similar technical technological application. So to me, it was it was an easy transition moving on from point A to point B to point C to point D to point all the way to point M or Y or whatever. And I basically learned things along all of those points too. Having a progressive career along those lines, working really hard. There is no alternate. There is no shortcut to working hard. And then making sure that I stay committed, I stay focused, I stay prioritized, treat your peers and colleagues up and down, manage up, manage down, treating all of them with respect. But at the same time is deliver as well. You might have heard a term very common, यहाँ पे पाकिस्तान में आम सुनता हूँ, यार I know, मैं उसे जानता हूँ, मैं उससे बात करता हूँ, मैं उस बंदे को जानता हूँ, उसे जानता हूँ, ठीक है? English most I know that, I know who, right? उसकी इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशन है ना वो, और जो उसका जो इंग्लिश इक्वलेंट है एक्सक्यूज मी कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री है वो ये है कि इट्स रियली नॉट अबाउट हु यू नो. ठीक है, अब उसको सेंटेंस को अगर पूरा किया जाए तो सेंटेंस इज नॉट रियली अबाउट हु यू नो, इट्स एक्चुअली अबाउट what they know about you. I'm confident today that I can call up a person X and ask them to do something for me and they'll make it happen.
Yeah.
I know that I'll call up person Y, send a person Z to that person, and then that person will actually take care of what I requested them to do, one way or the other, right? Because they know me about things and all that. So it's important that, your delivery, your execution, your style should leave a mark to a point where others basically just say, oh, this person was sent through by Masaood. I should definitely, oblige. I should definitely help and support and whatnot too. I believe in servant leadership. A lot of my experiences came from, early experiences came from non-profit organizations, and after that, through trainings and through managing teams at jobs, small teams, big teams, large-scale teams, and whatnot too. And we eventually got to a point where, alhamdulillah, we can manage multidisciplinary teams, offshore, onshore teams, a mix of diverse teams. We can now manage all of them at will, whenever we want and however we want to. That is just a skill that you do not necessarily acquire at birth. That is a skill you basically develop over time. And you cannot excuse me, you cannot discount the role of mentors, right? Not just one mentor, you need multiple mentors. I have about 5 or 6 of different mentors for different kind of roles and different kind of reasons too. They help you along the way. You get stuck with dealing with this particular human capital issue or human HR issue. You need someone to basically guide you through that process. You basically get stuck with some kind of strategy issue. You need someone who can guide you, who has been there before, right? So having an army of mentors is absolutely important. And your commitment to basically serve the community, excuse me, serve the people, and serve the world is more important. If you stay humble, have a good network of mentors, and you really want to make a difference in people's life, and basically sit back, relax, and see the fruit of your labor grow, I think you can be a good leader. Now, that is the definition of a good leader generally being followed in America. The definition of a leader can be different for different environments, right? But generally, that's a principle. If you are a servant leader, that example or that principle actually applies.
So we talked about mentors. It's amazing how खुद ही जो है पिछले जो हर एपिसोड जो है ना उसमें किसी न किसी लेवल पे ये डिस्कशन लाजमी हुई है अबाउट द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ मेंटर्स एंड आई थिंक आई विल बी डेफिनेटली गेटिंग बैक टू दैट. लेकिन उससे पहले वाज देयर एनी मोमेंट इन योर प्रोफेशनल करियर वे यू रियलाइज आफ्टर मे बी गोइंग थ्रू अ सर्टेन काइंड ऑफ चैलेंज where you were like now you think that you are ready to lead, or now you would want to actively be in a leadership role?
So that's interesting because most of my leadership roles came by accident. It's not that no one wanted to lead it, but it's just that, the situation got created automatically that thrust me into a position where I had to pick up a role to lead, whether that was president of student union, or that was leading a team, or being a president of a league, or president of a club, or being a founding member of X initiative or Y initiative or whatnot. So I think some people get lucky with positions that they aspire to be, and then they work hard towards it, and it just happens. That was not necessarily the case with me, because I never wanted to be a leader. Even today, I don't want to be a leader. I don't have any interest in doing leadership and stuff, right? And I think that attitude probably keeps me humble as well. That's by default. That's the attitude that I acquired from my father. But I believe if you can enable people to do their best of their job, to get the best out of them, you basically led from the front. That is a very simple definition of leadership for me. Leaders enable other people to do best of their work.
Definitely.
And that best of their work has to have a very positive impact into a community or into the world. And if you can do that, then you are a leader. You bring in vision to the table, you bring in strategy to the table, and you find the right people to basically execute that strategy. Along the way, you need to learn and you need to understand that there will be nuances, there will be losses. You should be able to take that on the chin, but at the same time also understand when to pivot.
Yeah.
Right. And some of these things you will only learn with experience.
Definitely.
Right. These things, there are no born leaders. It's very hard to basically find those born leaders one with the other two. Those who are considered born leaders or who consider themselves born leaders are usually very stubborn. And then in today's world where environments require strong collaboration, multidisciplinary collaboration, that attitude does not work. So enabling people to do the best of their work again, applying your strategic thought process to the initiative or the project or the product that you're trying to build or execute, and then be able to pivot at the right moments to always understand that where you start is not necessarily where you will end, or what you start with is not necessarily what you will end with. Having those kind of perspective in mind and having flexibility and agility into your approach, you can achieve a lot of things. Absolutely you can. And I think the sooner people are able to learn that, you'll be successful. Another takeaway for me during all of these leadership kind of leadership experiences and X, Y, and Z too is the power of communication. I think I grew out of Pakistani education system, right? I think one of the lag in this education system is the lack of communication, lack of trainings or learnings or application of communication skills. How important it is to be able to communicate well. How important it is to be resilient. How important it is to basically have high level of tolerance, especially during your communications, because you can achieve a lot just by sitting down at a table and resolving issues and problems. At the end of the day, I would say overwhelming majority of the world problems are always solved once people come to the table. So it's important to have good communication skills, be empathetic, right? Have a good strategic vision, but be able to also execute and lead on that execution. But find people and teams who are committed or who can commit to your vision, but can also be able to be enabled to do the best of their work. Just some of the ingredients that makes a good leader.
Taking a moment to let that sink in. You mentioned president of the student union. What's that story like?
So, we went to an American college in England, and the election time came, and, we had a good strength of students out there too. And then, there was a need for, people were looking for, someone to lead them who can basically work across the aisle.
Okay.
Can technically also work across the border or borders. Because we had a very diverse, student population, one with the other too. And basically, people encouraged, people requested, people asked, and X, Y, and Z, and then we all basically, got together. I said, okay, I'll throw my hat in the ring and see where I land with that. Threw my hat in the ring, won the presidency thingy too, and then just had a blast. School days 30 years ago or 25 years ago or something.
We've
been a while.
Any interesting stories from that time?
Well, we had quite a few, but in the interest of time, I'll just defer that for some other time.
Okay, sure thing. So we discussed that, and so tell me, Masood bhai, like one characteristic, like that was just your own, nobody else's, that you think has helped you a lot throughout your career.
Staying humble. Always stay humble. There is no alternate to stay, because you will be amazed how much acceptability, how much adaptability, and how much inclusiveness you will experience when you come across as humble. And genuine humble, not just act humble. It's about being genuine humble. No matter what type of a car you drive, no matter what kind of income you generate, no matter what kind of education you had, if you don't have humbleness in your attitudes, in your approach, in your day-to-day dealings, people will not feel comfortable to approach you.
Yeah.
And I think a good quality of a leader always is people should be comfortable to approach that leader. And if they don't find that humbleness in their attitude, they don't feel connected and they don't feel comfortable. So always stay humble.
And
It's also aajzi.
Yeah.
कि खुदा की ज़मीन पर आजी से चला करो, right? So we should experience that. We should all try to experience and apply that in our personal lives as well as in our professional lives as much as possible.
And like if somebody's trying and somebody asks, okay, how do you stay humble or how do you get there? So would you think that it's something along the line of remembering where you came from, remembering your roots, how you got there, and like what else? Like if somebody asks, it's like, okay, you're saying that one should be humble. Like how if somebody isn't?
So I think some of this is also acquired skill. Yeah, I come from a middle-class family. My father was an extraordinary humble guy.
Yeah.
He passed away a couple of years ago. Very tragic for all of us. But he left behind some amazing lessons for us. When he passed away, what he left behind for us, or how he managed his life, or how he managed our careers, All six of us siblings, our careers, and so had a lot of learning for us. Then I've been very lucky enough to have been worked with, promoted by, supported by mentors as well as leaders who themselves were very humble. And when you set someone as your ideal, then you set someone as your ideal, then you basically start adopting their personality traits as well.
Yeah.
Right. And if your personality matches with their personality at certain level or some level, you will eventually you'll see your career grow, or your personal life also grow on that same kind of a trajectory. But having humble does not necessarily mean that you are dumb stupid too. Right? Having humble simply means that you keep your ears and eyes open, you're approachable. The world sees you as a human, they don't see you as a stupid human. And at the same time, you also know how to get the work done. Like, at my work, I sometimes I have a reputation of being a tough boss, for example, right? Sometimes I have a reputation of being a very collaborative boss. Sometimes I have a reputation of being very collaborative across the aisle. Sometimes I have a reputation of being just an ass when it comes down to collaboration across the aisle. Right? You should be able to adjust your approach and your collaboration strategies based on the environment that you are in. Stay humble, obviously, but at the same time, adjust your approach so that others cannot roll over you. A lot of those things really come through experience, but a lot of that came to me through playing cricket. I'm generally an attack bowler, middle to lower order batsman. I have to make maximum impact. As a batsman, I have to make maximum impact in a rather short period of time. As a bowler, I have to make maximum impact in a rather short period of balls that I bowl. And I've been fairly successful, right? Then you're standing in the field for next 15, 20, 30 overs, or you're watching a team play from outside too, one with the other. You lead those teams, sometimes you are basically the most senior member of the team. And the way you think through the game, your game plan, the strategies, the approach to win, looking for that right pivotal moment where you can actually apply the pressure, accelerate or de-accelerate or whatnot too, right? If you're able to learn all of those things in your personal, professional, athletic, extracurricular and whatnot kind of a life too, and you're able to translate those experiences in those different domains, personal, professional and whatnot, I think you will be fairly successful. But you cannot do that if you don't stay humble. If you are stubborn, then trust me, a lot of times you will not be able to transfer your learnings from one domain to another because you're just too stubborn. But at the same time, there has to be an certain element of arrogance in your attitude as a leader. And that arrogance should never show as putting someone down. That arrogance should always show as protecting your team, protecting your vision, protecting your product, and then protecting your approach. So just kind of a different kind of an application. Take an example of Babar Azam, the famous Pakistani cricketer nowadays. Very humble guy, have a certain level of arrogance, really low arrogance. Go and look at Virat Kohli, right? Has a certain level of arrogance, but that arrogance drives his game.
Yeah.
But he's also known to be a very humble guy. So, you just have to look for those leaders who actually follow those personality traits. I look for leaders who have been very impactful, who have been very accomplished, who have stayed humble, but at the same time, who basically have constantly made impact over and over again. And those are the personality traits that I acquire. So, that's what I would recommend others to do as well. Look for a leader that you are inspired by and adopt their good things.
I think the importance of mentorship is pretty clear as of now, and as to why one should have, that kind of mentors.
Even history, and especially Islamic history, is full of mentors helping next generation come up. Somewhere along the way, we probably have lost the plot or lost the script of what it really means to pass on the baton from one generation to another, or what it really means to pass on learnings and experiences from one generation to the other. If you look at 200 years ago, for example, people would verbally tell you what their families or ancestors were, how they were, what their practices were, what did they apply to, how did they manage problems, issues, and whatnot, too, right? My father passed away 2 years ago. Whenever I have a problem to deal with, I always go back and I think, how would my father have dealt with that problem, right?
Yeah.
In my professional career, I always go back and I try to imagine how did X leader managed, that problem, right? And what was his approach? How much of a likeness to his problem is to the likeness of my problem? And that helps me create a thought process or a frame of reference point where I can start going down that resolution path, right? So in Islam, there has been a whole emphasis on mentorship. And that has been since the inception, since the beginning days of Islam. That's why you have four Khulafai Rashidin, because they were all, the parokar of our Prophet. They were his, closest companions. They all learned and they all got trained and everything too. And similarly, look at the Muslim history as well. There were mentors and mentees who basically learned from each other. All the Char Imams, for example, they were all kind of student of each other, the student of the one of the other. So we need to continue that chain. You will see that chain at least I've seen that chain in the Arab world. I've seen that chain in the Turkish society, very strong. I've seen that similar kind of a chain in, some elements or some families in Pakistan as well. But as a nation, we need to revive the art of mentorship. I think we're missing it. And that's one of the reasons we probably, a lot of our youth, being one of the top 6th or 7th youth population in the world, lacking direction. I think one of the reasons is we have lost that art of mentorship.
It is definitely something to ponder upon, because a lot of it is right there in our own history and in our own roots, that it be religious or of our country. But yeah, we definitely have lost it somewhere.
And you find the right mentors, they can help you get from point A to point Z in a lot more shorter period of time than what you can do on your own. They can help you clear those obstacles that you will be facing yourself, and trying to clear those obstacles yourself if you only were able to find a mentor. And that mentor can be your father, can be your brother, can be your mother, can be your sister, can be your cousin, can be your uncle, can be your teacher, right? You just need to figure out who connects with your personality, be humble enough to ask them for help from time to time, and see magic happens. And then be open. Most of the mentors do not necessarily criticize, they basically show you the way of doing things, right? That's the way they dealt with the situation, the way they have seen other people deal with the situation, and all those too, right? So you should be able to, once you align yourself with a mentor or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatnot, listen to them, close your eyes, and just follow the path. Even if you fail, you failed on an educated path.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than a pedestrian path.
Yeah, it's a very organized way to fail.
Right? It's an organized way to fail, right?
Yeah.
And that learning out of that will be profound. Learning out of the other process will also be profound, but learning out of this process will be a lot more profound.
Yeah.
And you can become a mentor to someone else tomorrow. And don't forget that as human beings, it is our responsibility. Every single human being, regardless of what religion or caste you belong to or community you belong to, it is our responsibility to pass on the baton. And if we won't do it, then we basically break that process of narration, that process of storytelling, that process of the journey that we all need to define and cherish.
This bit was amazing. This bit was definitely something that's going to stay with me. So, okay, Masood bhai, just shifting our conversation a bit towards something else now. You have worked on a lot of spectrum in the technology industry, that's for sure. We have partnered up on things, and you have been on this side and that side of the domain as well. So, being a technical leader there in the US, what do you think, where do this landscape lack and technology. I think you understand what I'm trying to ask. कि यहाँ पे like what's the difference? किस तरह से अगर यहाँ पे एक टेक टीम काम कर रही है and expectations वहाँ से आ रही हैं, तो where do you think there's something that the whole landscape as a whole can improve in?
It's a very good question. Something that I and many other people, especially as the overseas Pakistani, have struggled with over the years. A bit of a context on this conversation before I deep dive
Sure.
into this too. The work culture and the work environment is different in UAE, for example, is different in UK, and slightly different in US, Canada, and all those places too, right? Most of the West basically shares similar kind of work culture, work ethics, and whatnot, right? And those countries, one of them is in our neighbor. Those countries who have adopted to that work culture, those work ethics, have seen tremendous growth and success, either as embedded teams, offshore teams, hybrid teams, or whatnot. So step number one always is to learn the environment that you are going to work in or you're going to work for. Understand the work ethics. If your work ethics, your discipline, your environment matches up with them or theirs, it will be an easier starting point for all the parties. Number one. Number two, everything, or put it more mildly, most of the things in the West happens based on frameworks, established practices, evolved processes, and whatnot. So when we are looking at problems, we are looking at problems from very specific framework point of view, from a very specific process perspective and whatnot too, right? Having exposure to those frameworks, having exposures to those processes, absolutely important. And if you look at growth of China, even India, or some other countries in the world as well, they have learned those work environments, those work disciplines, the work ethics. They have learned those frameworks. They've learned those process optimizations and all those different strategies. And were successfully able to apply those locally into their own countries, into their own industrial landscape, and have seen tremendous success. So the challenge with Pakistan is, excuse me, one of our biggest export over the past 50 years, or close to 50 years, has been textile.
Yeah.
One of the second biggest export has again been textile. Now some sports goods, some medical devices, this, that, and whatnot too, right? We lack innovation. There is a big consumption of textile goods locally in Pakistan as well. But each industry has its own unique processes, unique application of business practices and whatnot. When you don't have diverse industries in your vicinity or in your communities, you do not have exposure to different type of processes, different type of technologies, different type of applications and whatnot, right? You need that badly to be successful at the international stage. Many years ago, I made a visit to Singapore as part of my capstone project at school. We spent about 6-7 days there. We went to about 25 different companies just to learn what their processes is. We went all the way up and down, up and down the hierarchy. We went up to the government offices, economic development council or forum, whatever they call it nowadays, to The universities, we went to, HPs of the world, the Intels of the world, kind of the manufacturing plants of the world. And it was so heartening to see how they have cracked the code on manufacturing, how they have cracked the code on context, how they have cracked the code on technology development and whatnot. And this is 2010 or 11 that I'm talking about. Their focus was to focus on very niche technical products, very niche advanced materials that have high margin of revenue. So if you produce only 10 of those things or one particular product, the range of revenue that you can generate out of those products equals probably hundreds and thousands of one single common product.
Yeah.
Move to China. China does both, or maybe, and obviously more. So they mass produce these small items that has small revenue opportunities, but they also produce these products that have high revenue opportunities. Look at other countries as well. They've all learned and adopted some of these formulas very, very well. So Pakistan challenge, as I see it, and working with offshore organizations there, and myself have managed plenty of offshore organizations, or not organizations, offshore teams, and then in my own professional career as well. Lack of that exposure is dearly hurting Pakistan. Pakistan does not have manufacturing to a point where a 230 to 40 million people nation should actually have. There is no infrastructure that supports that industrialization. So the country is heavily reliant on overseas Pakistanis, not just for the remittances, but also for their skills to basically come in, help, mentor, support these large-scale units, for example, yours, right? I'm glad to see that you guys grew from like 3 people in 2.5 years to like 35, 40 people now, right? And I'm committed to continue to make that mentorship, that difference, that help, and bring people who can continue to do that mentorship for you guys too, because I would absolutely love to see you guys be successful.
It's been a blessing.
I think it's our responsibility, as I said, as mentors, to pass the baton, to give you guys that level of exposure. But that level of exposure also requires tremendous patience, right? As you guys have experienced sometimes. We have to, if I have to get a team work done in US, for example, I can put my team together, get the work done, everything is hunky-dory, just hustle, run, 100 miles an hour speed or whatnot. At times you can accelerate, get things done quickly, right? We have different type of struggles when we try to bring that same approach to Pakistan, because of, again, lack of that diverse industry experience, a lack of understanding of the value chains, lack of understanding of supply chain, lack of understanding of technology platforms and whatnot, right? So technology is commodity, right? This probably is one of your final answers of questions as well, but technology is generally commodity. You can apply technology whatever way, however way you want to, and it will fill the purpose that you used it for. But if it's not solving the problem or problems, then it's useless.
Exactly.
So even though I've been really close to technology, and in my earlier days, I thought that technology runs the world, I was proven badly wrong, thanks to some of my mentors and my education, and my experiences as well. Technology does not run the world. The world runs the technology.
Exactly.
The technology is helping solve world problems, and where technology cannot solve world problems, it's junk. It's just that simple. So as far as we can continue to find problems that can be solved, and sometimes it's not a technology solution that you need. And I think that's a big misconception in industry today. Sometimes it's not the technological solution that you need. Sometimes it's just a process optimization. Sometimes it's just, hey, can we accelerate this manual process, for example, right? I'll give you a quick example. In Pakistan, because of lack of industry, there are so many people who are looking for jobs. So you walk into a mall, you walk into a restaurant, it always amuses me that there are so many people around to help you, get to your destination. There is someone who will basically help you park the car. There's someone who will open the door. There's someone who will basically walk you up to the door. There's someone who will open the door. There's someone who will basically take you all the way in. There's someone who will basically help you settle down on the table. There's someone who will come and take your order. There's someone who will come in and ask, hey, how was your food? There's someone who will basically come and clean up, right? You probably, in that entire process, you've probably gone through like, I don't know, 10 to 12 people already, right? So in this kind of environment, a technological solution is not going to help.
Yeah.
But an optimization approach will help. How do you optimize this while also continue to making sure that everyone in this value chain can possibly get to what they're trying to get out of it, right? End of the day, I think probably was not the question, but not necessarily the exact question, but I think diversification of industry, and that is to next generation big industry, is absolutely important for Pakistan. Solving local problems first with a very close grounded eye on global landscape is absolutely important to be able to scale. And then XYZ. Now we can talk about this topic all.
Yeah, definitely. This is something that I definitely need to hear, and along similar spectrums, that when you're dealing with teams here, that is something that there's some work that you need to get done, and there's some team here. I mean, not someone, maybe
Any team.
any team. So where do you think they lack more? Is it the technical aspect of things, or is it the aspect that's dealing with communication or transparency or honesty? Is it that side of things or this side of things?
So I think there are a couple of things that the teams do really well here, right? Number one, they are technically capable.
Yeah.
Most of them are technically capable. A majority of them are technically capable. Number two, they generally communicate fairly decent. If not very well, they communicate very decent to well, basically. The third thing is that because Pakistan, I think I've heard like one of the top 5 countries that speaks English, pretty much as a second language, or could be considered a first language.
Number 3,
Yes,
highest population, yeah.
I think our understanding and grasp of the language is fairly decent. But there's a lot of work still need to be done, because the way a message is conveyed in British English is not necessarily the way the message is conveyed in, American English, or Canadian English and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So there's still a little bit of a challenge there too, right? But teams do pretty good. Teams have done fairly well in understanding those aspects, and applying themselves, have hardworking. Generally, I've found people to be very hardworking, which is really good, mashallah. But I think what's lagging now is how to work smart. You can keep working hard for 15 hours, 18 hours a day, but can you change that working discipline to maybe 10 or 12 hours a day? So the conversations we had at the team discussion this afternoon, for example, what does an AI-enabled you looks like? Everyone needs to think about that. If we are the nation who can take inputs of AI and enable each one of us as AI-enabled and capable individuals, I think we can make a global impact a lot more faster than some other communities or any other community in the world. If we have our professionals thinking, what does an AI-enabled front-end developer looks like? What does an AI-enabled project manager looks like? What does an AI-enabled QA analyst looks like? What does an AI-enabled Scrum Master looks like? What does an AI-enabled product owner looks like? What does an AI-enabled product manager looks like? What does an AI-enabled architect looks like? What does AI-enabled CTO looks like, right?
Definitely.
If we seriously and deeply think on those lines, and with some disruptive technologies that have come along, like ChatGPT, I think we can really nail the world. And always remember, it's you who can change yourself from within.
Yeah.
No one from outside can do that. And if you, as technologists or as technical people, professional, or SMEs and whatnot, want to change things, then you need to step back, look deeper into yourself, and see what an AI-enabled you really looks like. That is a message that I think needs to go out to everyone. Once we do some of those things, which is again, become better communicator. When we are pretty good communicators, still continue to work on becoming better communicators. Number two, see how AI can be incorporated and can make things Do not have a tunnel vision, have a global aspect of things, have a global view of your projects, have a broader understanding of the entire value chain that you're working. Any project that you're working on, always look into what the value chain looks like. And within that value chain, try to understand what is the role of different stakeholders inside that value chain. How do they perceive the project that you're doing, for example? What does it impact to them? What does it mean to them? How does it add value to them, right? Once you look at things from those kind of angles, right, your perspective on your projects will change. So I think especially overseas Pakistanis, you go to California. I attend this open Silicon Valley,
Open SV. Yeah.
open SV events, once every 2-3 years and all those. I'm supremely impressed.
Yes, I mean,
The kind of talent, Pakistani talent that shows up, you're like, where the hell have these guys been? I've never seen these people. I don't know who they are. I need to learn from them, right? You have people passing by who have done work on Tesla engine engineering. You have people working around you who have patents on security from Microsoft. You have people working around you who have done some amazing work at Googles of the world and this and that too, right? A very, very proud moments for the Pakistani fraternity inside Pakistan and outside of Pakistan, right? But they're not connected.
yeah, that's the problem.
Right? And they are not connected and there are informal channels that are working hard to make that happen. I know for sure because I'm formally or informally part of some of those channels myself too. And, OpenSV, for example, the Open Network has now as Open Karachi, Open Lahore, and I think they also have an Open Islamabad Chapter 2. All of these things will actually continue to bridge those gaps. But our youth, we need to instill a sense of responsibility, a sense of ownership into our youth as well, our young professionals who are upcoming, so they know that they have these channels available and they should tap into these channels and start generating wealth. Once you start generating wealth as a community, as an individual, you make an impact because the well-being of you and your family is generally positively impacted. And if you have a chain of those, wealth generations around you, I think that will be our contribution to the nation that we call as our ancestors, as our current or ex or previous home or whatnot, right? And that's where basically we still lag. Anyone who can create that that level of collaboration and be patient on both sides. The work that you can get done in America in about a week is probably a work that it will take you 3 to 4 weeks in Pakistan.
Yes.
With some new teams. That's normal, right? So when I hired teams, like when I hired team here in Pakistan, I was fully aware of that aspect. And I made myself available to make sure that I can provide mentorship as much as I can, but I also wanted to make sure that they can think independently. We still struggle a little bit on that part. We want people to be able to think independently, be at their own best behavior, and be able to do, their own best work. We'll continue to enable them. It's a learning process. It's a journey. It will take a while, but our hope is that if we are helping some teams develop themselves, those teams are going to amplify that experience to other local teams.
Yeah.
And inspire others to basically become a better version of their mentors. And I think it is a responsibility of every single overseas Pakistani and every single resident Pakistani professional as well to basically instill that. End of the day, the world literally runs on some very basic, simple principles.
Yes.
Professional work runs on some very basic, simple principles. And that's a conversation for some other...
exactly. This can be like...
Yeah, some other time. But if we are able to embrace, adopt, apply, consume those principles, there's no reason why Pakistan as a nation can be left behind or stay behind. You can literally rock the world. There's so much talent in this country. It's not even funny. There's so much talent in this country.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt.
And we hope that inshallah, the efforts that we are putting in, the efforts that you guys are putting in, many others are putting in, will translate into a very positive impact for this current generation. Because our parents' generation is gone, our generation is gone. We went through similar kind of a narrative of what Pakistan is going through and all that too. We are hoping that we can pass on the baton and we can pass on some good experiences, some good learning, some good mentorship. So the next generation can be more successful, inshallah.
Inshallah. Inshallah. I just have one last question.
Sure.
I think that would be a good point to end it. So you have been working with teams literally across the globe.
Mm-hmm.
There have been multiple countries, we know that for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And then your affiliation with us has been quite long now.
Mhm.
So then you must have at some point decided that this is the team that
Mhm.
you have that kind of synergy with, that you have to, that you can stick with, that you can trust. So what were the things that we were doing right? It's for me to know and for everyone else to know if they need, so they can get that kind of help if they're struggling in that domain, for example. So what were the things that we were doing right, and what were the things that we weren't doing right per se, but we were actively working upon? So that was like a consolation for you that this is something that's going to be okay in the near future.
So number one, you guys were super hungry.
Yeah, for sure.
Young professionals, got out of some good schools and super hungry. That was almost infectious, to be very honest, because seeing that hunger was beautiful. You guys were super focused. You knew what you want to do. Your focus was really, you want to make a difference in your own lives. You don't want to work for someone else. You want to work for yourself, and you want to make a mark at the global stage, right? I mean, that was also beautiful. Third was you guys were super committed. As you know, that we engaged for about a year before we actually got into some proper project. We did some tiny projects here, there too, and some projects, right? You guys were super committed. And you guys are awesome learners. And I think that is, all of those traits also point to humbleness in the nature of the company, primarily adopted through the nature of the leaders of the company, right? So I think those things were just amazing. And that basically made us, me and some, a couple others, commit our time initially. And we, as you know, we committed a lot of time to you guys without asking for any returns, right? Even when we brought in projects on the table, we didn't really ask for anything in return except that you do the project right, because we will help you to do those projects right. And our focus to that time and even today is to make sure that you guys can learn the tricks of the trade. You guys can adopt the practices of the best so that you guys can also be the best. And I think we need to continue to work on that.
Definitely.
There are always challenges working with the teams, just like you have challenges within your own homes as well. Now, within your siblings, your families, this and that too, that's just normal, because when there are relationships, there are always friction. Any relationship, there's always friction. There's friction between the teams as well, right? I get bogged down by my co-founder sometimes as well on the way we are doing work and the deliveries happening in timely manner. Sometimes they get delayed, but that's just the nature of the beast. Unless and until you guys are committed to the journey, you guys will be fine. And always remember, no one remember the losses.
Yeah.
Everyone remember the home runs. So you hit a home run once in a while, that will always stick. And no one will question you. And that's what we need to continue to focus on, to make sure that we have consistent wins under our belt, and you guys do too, so that everyone is successful.
Thank you so much, Masood bhai. I mean, and I think one promise that I can make you is like, this pursuit won't be over unless it's written, etched on paper that we are among the best in the trade that there were in this
Inshallah.
land of work, inshallah. And
Remember,
when we'll definitely transfer it on as well.
inshallah. One final message that I would like to
For sure, please.
pass on through this forum is
Please.
America has what's called an American dream, right? Europe has, or UK has their own dream. Each country, each nation, each community has its own dream. We need to figure out what is a Pakistani dream,
Yeah. Other than to live someone else's.
right?
Yeah,
We need to figure out what is a Pakistani dream.
for sure.
And we need to aspire to that. We need to live that. And we need to work extremely hard towards that.
For sure.
One of the generations will need to go under the ground, probably with the help of previous generation, one with the other two, but then rest of the generations will do better and well. And it's for us or our generations, your generation or our generation to decide who wants to be that pioneer of the Pakistani dream. Because at least as far as I'm concerned, it don't exist today.
Yeah.
And it should.
It should.
Thank you for having me, Asad.
Thank you so much, Masaood bhai, and thank you for being the person that you are, the mentor that you have been. I have personally learned a lot from you, and not just professionally. I've learned a lot from you about life, and we have had those conversations even when it was about something personal, and it is actually an absolute blessing to have someone like you. See, when people see us and when they say that, this is something that started from people with zero experience. So when they listen to conversations like this, they would understand where our experience is coming from and where our mentorship is coming from. So this is nothing less of an honor, to say the least, Masaood bhai. Thank you so much for doing this. Would love to do this sometime again soon, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair and stay inspired.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.